Come celebrate Lunar New Year on Saturday, February 1st from 12 to 6 p.m. at Market Square Park with the Lunar New Year Festival and Night Market. There's going to be lion and dragon dances, a live DJ, cultural workshops by young audiences of Houston, and my personal favorite, a bustling rice market with street food and vendors. Head over to downtownhouston.org to register in the event section. The first 200 people to register will get a gift voucher to downtown businesses in a special red envelope. I'll see you at the Lunar New Year Festival and Night Market on February 1st in downtown. Today on CityCast Houston, have you heard about the rats eating up pounds and pounds of weed at the Houston Police Department? Nope, it's not a joke, and it's only in H-Town. Plus, what's in and what's out for Houston in 2025, and why taxpayers could end up paying more to clean up old abandoned oil and gas wells, aka zombie wells, across Texas. Executive producer Laura Isensee joins me to break down those stories and more. It's Tuesday, January 14th. I'm Raheel Ramzanlali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Laura, what's up? Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm always happy to be here on the show with you, but I'm going to admit it was kind of a tough weekend, right? With the Longhorns, still nursing that wound.
Yeah, that one hurt. For those of you who didn't watch on Friday night, my beloved Texas Longhorns, our beloved Texas Longhorns.
I know, hook 'em.
Right? You went there as well. They were 1 yard away from tying it up against Ohio State, who is probably the best team right now in the country. And momentum was on their side. They could have won that game. Everything looked good. And then, Coach Sarkisian decided to get a little cute with the play call and led to a terrible, terrible play that eventually got the Buckeyes up 14 points. So my heart is broken. I was watching with my brother, and yeah, we were not happy, but it was okay. You know why?
Why? Tell me.
Because the next day, the Houston Texans beat the LA Chargers, and things are okay. They were not favored to win that game. People were calling this an easy win for the Chargers. And guess what? Our Texans dominated that game.
The Texans showed up. Yeah, I'm not the biggest football person, but I will always root for the Longhorns. And we were actually out to eat Friday night, and the place had the TVs going. And so I was kind of dipping in and out. And I was like, it wasn't looking good, but I was crossing my fingers. And then, yesterday my social media was blowing up with the Texans. And I was like, oh, I guess this is a good day for the Texans. So we'll hopefully, maybe your prediction on the Houston Texans making it to the Super Bowl, maybe it will actually come true. What do you think?
You never know, but things are about to get a lot harder because the Texans are now traveling to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. And look, the defense is playing great, but the offense, we just have too many injuries here in the city of Houston, all right? So I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe they pull off this monumental upset, but things aren't looking great. But the fact that they won another playoff game in year 2 of DeMeco Ryans' tenure as head coach is a good sign. Things are pointing up, and that prediction was in the next 2 years that they would win the Super Bowl. So we still have next year.
I think it was this year. I don't think it was in the next 2 years. We're going to go back and listen to the tape.
Everything is pointing up for the Texans right now. So I'm going to make a bold prediction out the gate. The Houston Texans will be Super Bowl bound either this season or next.
Shout out to all the Texans fans, and we're going to be covering how the team does. So stay tuned to the podcast and also sign up for our daily newsletter. Hey, Houston, we'll have the latest on the Houston Texans as they move forward in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that game is Saturday at 3:30 p.m. So make sure you set your reminders and watch that and root on our Texans. Hey, let's get to our big story of the week. What do you got for me?
I got zombie wells. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, I know exactly what zombie wells are. We actually did an episode with Lauren Steffi about this, who is an energy reporter, has written many books about the oil and gas industry here in the city of Houston and, of course, Texas. So I'm familiar with it, but tell listeners who don't know what zombie wells are what they are, because they sound scary.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like science fiction, but it's very much a reality of living in an oil and gas state. And so basically what happens is these oil and gas companies, they set up wells, but then maybe the company dissolves or goes bankrupt. And so there are these oil and gas wells that are out there and nobody's taking care of them. And then they start leaking or they start gushing contaminated water. And then the Texas Railroad Commission has to go and clean them up. And of course, Texas Railroad Commission, it has railroad in the name, but they're actually the agency that monitors the oil and gas industry. And so this has been a longstanding problem of these zombie wells leaking oil and gas wells, but it's getting really expensive. And I think the issue might be coming to a head here in the next legislative session.
Yeah, it seems like every year somebody does an investigation about zombie wells. And of course, they are bad for the environment and they're bad for our state, which thus impacts Houstonians. But nothing ever seems to get done because who's going to plug these wells? Like, is it the Railroad Commission? But there's also this issue that a lot of these companies that once had these wells, they no longer exist as well. Like, no pun intended there, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is up to the Texas Railroad Commission to fix them. And they have been trying to fix more of them because there's more and more that are leaking. But the problem that they're running into, according to this latest investigation by Amanda Drain at the Houston Chronicle, shout out Amanda, is that just the cost of plugging a single well is getting more and more expensive. So
Wow.
typically, an onshore well like historically has cost about $30,000 to plug. But just last fall, the Texas Railroad Commission had to spend $13 million
What?
on just two wells. So just think about that, basic budgeting. Like if you're going from 30K to $13 million to
Mm.
start plugging wells, it is dramatically expensive. So her reporting shows that it's basically costing them about 10 times the normal amount to plug some of these wells. And they're asking the state legislature to increase their fund for fixing these wells by $100 million.
Wow.
And so this is where I think it gets really important for Houstonians because, like you said, this is an issue that affects our environment, but it also could be an issue that is going to affect our pocketbook because historically, regular fees paid by oil and gas companies cover this repair. But the cost is becoming so great, the general funds for the Railroad Commission aren't covering this anymore. So they're having to ask the legislature for more money. And so, who's going to pay for that? Is that just going to come out from general funds? Is that going to be passed on to taxpayers? If you look at her story, which I'll link in our show notes, there was an interesting solution and kind of basic, I'm going to say. Like
Okay.
maybe there should just be an extra fee for, oil well repairs. And like the industry can pay for it because this is an industry problem.
Yeah. This is not a citizen problem. This is the oil industry, who, by the way, reaps so many profits in the billions of dollars, right? Like, these companies are worth so much. Why aren't they just paying for it? This is up to them. This is their cause, and they should be the ones cleaning this up, not us with our taxpayer dollars. We have other things to worry about.
Yeah. So I think this is an issue, we just had this week on the podcast talking about issues to watch
Mhm.
at the Texas legislature. And I would like to add this onto the list of what are state lawmakers going to do about zombie wells? Who's going to pay this increasing bill? Is it going to go to the taxpayers, or are we going to ask oil and gas companies to step up and maintain their own industry?
Yeah. And if you want a deeper dive into the history of zombie wells around the state of Texas, I've linked our episode as well with CityCast Houston when we talked to Lauren Steffi. I left that conversation going, wow, man,
Yeah.
oh, that's
I
frustrating.
got to catch up on that one.
Yeah. Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 is now on view at Holocaust Museum Houston from January 24th to May 25th. This groundbreaking exhibition is produced by the Bullock Texas State History Museum in collaboration with Refusing to Forget, and it explores a decade of hardship, conflict, and state-sanctioned violence along the Texas border that threatened to destroy a community. But this decade also led to a cultural renaissance along the border and beyond, and it inspired the Mexican-American civil rights movement. Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 will be on view in Holocaust Museum Houston's Joseph and Edith Mintzberg Gallery, January 24th through May 25th. Admission is always free for ages 18 and under and college students with a valid school ID, and it's also free to everyone Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more at hmh.org/lifeanddeath. The Museum of Fine Arts Houston presents Living with the Gods, Arts, Beliefs, and Peoples. To celebrate its centennial, the museum has organized a once-in-a-lifetime exhibition that features extraordinary objects made by artists to communicate with their gods. Living with the Gods represents a vast array of religions and beliefs, with art created across cultures and across thousands of years. The 200 objects demonstrate the astonishing quality that artists have achieved when driven by passion and faith. Living with the Gods is on view from October 27th through January 20th, 2025. Visit mfah.org/livingwiththegods to learn more. That's mfah.org/livingwiththegods. Laura, I don't know if you've seen this trend on social media, but a lot of people are posting their notes apps and making a list of what is in for 2025 and what is out for 2025, right? So whether it be fashion trends, city trends, personal trends, they are posting their ins and their outs. So let's do that and talk about what is in, right? A trend that might be coming for the city of Houston, and what is out. Like, we're done with this in 2025. So we'll do 3 outs and then 3 ins.
Cool. Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do it. Why don't you kick it off? What is out for 2025?
Okay. Don't at me that this is like another slightly wonky thing, but out for 2025, I'm going to say TERS. These tax increment reinvestment zones, basically out on little accountability for public tax dollars. You talked about this on the show last week. We just have another example of this quasi-governmental agency collecting public tax dollars that are supposed to help a neighborhood, in this case, Midtown. And instead, we have this scandal of mismanaged money that was supposed to help affordable housing and instead built a $22 million office tower and parking garage. And, we just have this not great track record in Houston of these tax districts that really benefit the affluent and then puts more burden on working class Houstonians. And we've seen this, like there's a study last fall from Rice and investigations by local outlets. So I'm just putting it out there, out 2025 on the TERS. And maybe not like completely out, but let's just kind of let some die and expire. Like maybe some of these have run their course, or let's get some accountability in there.
That's it. More accountability, right? Isn't that what Mayor John Whitmire made a big statement about? Like, we're going to look at all the money being spent. We're going to see where it's going, how we can maybe clean this up. And by clean it up, I mean, hey, if we don't need to spend this, let's not spend it. So I'm with you. This could be the year that there's some accountability and maybe some less spending on TERS.
Yeah, I mean, let's streamline. Let's take a really hard look. Like, which of these tax zones really merit continuing? Yeah. And maybe there's some that just need to be sunset because, just for people who are catching up on this, and it's such a wonky thing, but there's these tax dollars that are collected in the zone. And instead of going to the general city budget to pay for things like police or potholes, the zone gets to capture those and spend them on special projects in the zone. And so that's how you get this $22 million office tower for a zone that was supposed to help prevent gentrification. And, the rent in this new office tower is so expensive that nonprofits that want to move in can't afford the rent. So,
It's so
like,
crazy.
who is this helping? So that's my first out on little accountability on public tax dollars.
All right, I'm going to get to my first out, and that is Beyonce at the rodeo. Now, everybody had high hopes that Queen Bee was going to perform at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, but when they unveiled their lineup last week, many Houstonians were heartbroken to see that Queen Bee was not on the list. And here's hoping that Beyonce does perform in the city of Houston for several days, hopefully, if she announces a tour, which, again, all signs are pointing to that. This is my opinion. There's nothing official out there. But I hope she has multiple days here because it is H-Town. But yeah, no Queen Bee at
Yeah.
the rodeo.
No Cowboy Carter. I gotta say, I was kind of bummed with the rodeo lineup.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
same
just
here.
gonna be a little honest. Like, it was, you got some big names there, but it just felt a little flat.
It's tough with the rodeo, right? Because usually those shows are an hour and they are like on the dot. They will start and you get an hour and that is it, right? So it's hard for big acts to come here and do their whole show because a Beyonce concert is going to be like 3 hours long, right?
Yeah.
Or a Bad Bunny concert is going to be 3 hours long. So you've got to pick artists that are big, but also at the same time, they can perform in 1 hour.
Yeah, but I'm just going to say you also need to pick artists that reflect Houston's diversity and Houston's listening habits. Joey Guerra at the Houston Chronicle had a great piece
Hmm.
looking at this and how, Houston has really diverse listening habits. If you look at our 2024 Spotify Wrapped, Houston is such a global city and they're just very few artists of color and not that many women. And a lot of people are wondering, where's the Selena tribute concert? This year, 2025, it's going to be the 30th anniversary of her iconic performance, her last major live performance at the rodeo.
Mm.
And there's like nothing, like
Yeah.
it would have been amazing to have a lineup of special acts like national singers and local singers honoring this icon of Texas culture at the rodeo. And it's just not there. I gotta agree with Joey on this one.
Yeah, definitely would have loved to seen that. But yeah, nonetheless, that is the lineup. And Post Malone is a big name. Bun
Mhm.
B is back for year 4 of his takeover bash. So we do have that. And we will have a lot of coverage with the rodeo coming up. And it's one of the best weeks in the city. So we still are going to have fun.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. I'm just saying, hey, rodeo committee, can you talk to Bad Bunny? Can you talk to Peso Pluma? I would love to see one of those. And if it's only an hour, like that's okay. We will soak it up. But yeah, listeners, let us know what do you want to hear from the Houston Rodeo? We'll be covering it and would love to know what you want to hear about this major event that's right around the corner. Okay, Raheel, do you have another out for 2025? What's on your list?
Yeah, I do. Sitting in traffic. All right. So, a new study from TomTom found that Houstonians spent a total of 47 hours sitting in traffic. Okay, that is horrible, but you got to compare it to New York, where they spent an average of 94 hours in traffic. All right. So, my hopeful out for 2025 is that maybe this year we're spending even less time in rush hour traffic. And I don't know, maybe we spend 40 hours in rush hour traffic instead of 47 hours.
Yeah, I mean that would be pretty amazing. I don't know when time in traffic would be an in, but let's definitely put it in the out column. Um and hey, it kind of dovetails with one of my ins, what I think is going to be in for 2025.
Yeah, tell me.
And that is in real life meetups.
Okay.
So hopefully with less traffic, this will be easier. But what I'm talking about is like, texts are great and DMs over social media is cool to kind of keep up with friends. But I'm really looking forward to more in real life meetups, like meeting for a cup of coffee instead of a long text chat. Like,
Yeah.
don't sign up for just a Zoom class. Go in person. Here at CityCast Houston, we want to have more community events and connect with listeners and Hey Houston readers. And I think this is a big in for me because ever since the pandemic, there's this growing loneliness crisis, and it's not
Yeah.
just a bad feeling, like it has really bad impacts on our health. It's like being lonely is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which is not
Wow.
healthy at all. That's what the Surgeon General announced.
I'm definitely focusing more on that because I am a person of habit and schedule. So I know what I'm going to do every day. I know I'm going to be here at this time, whatever, right? So I'm trying to do more meetups in person as well. So instead of texting or even a phone call, I would tell my friend, hey, let's meet up and let's get a workout in together, or let's get
Hmm.
coffee, or let's go play pickleball, whichever, right? So we can talk, catch up.
Yeah.
And you just feel so energized after those meetups. Like it might be hard. You might have to sit in traffic a little bit, or you're going to
Hmm.
drive a little bit, whatever it may be. But afterwards, it just feels so good going
Yeah.
to an event or meeting up with somebody in person.
Yeah, I think there's just something magical to being together in community. And that's something that I'm holding on to for 2025.
And that leads me to my in, which is
Okay.
when you are meeting up with a friend or friends or family or CityCast Houston, whatever it may be, we can all have more crawfish and pay less because guess what is in for 2025? It
Tell
is
me.
predicted that we will have lower prices on crawfish this season because of more rainfall over the fall months and winter months and mild temperatures. So our cousins in Louisiana, they are producing more crawfish right now, which is fantastic because prices were so expensive last year. It even made us do an episode talking about how expensive it is for crawfish. Well, everyone's predicting that that cost is going to come down. So whether it be you're buying it or you're going to a restaurant, you will be paying less. And I've already seen our friend Mike Trin of Mike Seafood post that he's
Uh-huh.
getting live crawfish right now. Like it
Oh,
is
wow.
starting. Yeah.
Wow. That is super exciting because, historically growing up in Texas, I'm really used to the crawfish season starting later in March. But I've noticed that places are starting to offer crawfish earlier and earlier, partly because the weather continues to stay warm year round.
Yeah.
And, even, BB's, one of the best Texas, New Orleans, Cajun restaurants, they're promising to serve live crawfish
Yeah.
very soon.
I like that, but personally, I can't eat crawfish until March, like until it's spring. I don't know. The cold weather, I just need like nice weather to enjoy crawfish. But that's me. But
Yeah,
nice that it's out there.
yeah. That's a good one.
All right, Laura, let's wrap this up. You got one more in for me?
Yes, I do have one more in, but unfortunately, it's not as fun or happy as lower prices on crawfish. What I'm calling in is go bags and disaster prep.
Oh no.
Because I'm going to be honest, like ever since the LA fires broke out, I have just been glued to my phone, glued to social media about what's happening. I have a lot of friends from graduate school and former coworkers and some cousins who live out in California, and a lot of them have been impacted. Some of them have lost their entire home, or maybe their home is standing, but their neighborhood is ashes. And
Wow.
so it's so devastating. My heart goes out to everyone suffering. And, I know there's so many Houston, Los Angeles connections, but it has me thinking that for 2025 in disaster prep,
Yeah.
we went through Hurricane Beryl last year. We went through the derecho. And, I just think it's sadly a reminder that we need to have those go bags ready. And here's a new thing that I'm going to try and do. I want to share it with listeners is get a hard drive or a flash drive and put all your important documents there, your passwords, your financial records, um, special family
Hmm.
photos or writings, things that can't be replaced, and document it all there. And then here's a twist. Make 2 copies and send one to a friend who lives in a totally different state.
Oh, wow.
Just
Okay.
as safekeeping, because, when a disaster comes, if you have stuff backed up on the cloud, that is one sort of line of defense. But if there's a major power outage, you're not going to be able to log onto the cloud.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have hard copies, multiple copies, redundancy. And man, I don't want to end the show on a low note, but hurricane season will be here soon enough. Who knows what's going to happen in the meantime? But I just feel like we have to be really smart and
Yeah.
be prepared for the unexpected.
One thing that my wife and I have started to do ever since Hurricane Harvey, when we had to evacuate, was that we were panicking, like, we don't know what to take, this and that. So every year, what we do is go through a checklist of, all right, if we have to leave the house in 10 minutes, what are we grabbing? Where is everything? And we've already gone over the plan, right? Like, we're grabbing the laptops because they have important files.
Yeah.
We already know everything in the safe is coming in our backpacks. And, now we're fortunate to live in a 2-story house. So we move things upstairs if it is a flood threat, right? So we know exactly where the box of memories, are and which ones to grab. So we actually do this like ritual of, hey, here's what we're doing. We got 10 minutes. Where is everything? So it's a good habit to like form and do just in case you're ever put in that position. And you don't want to be thinking about like, oh, I can't believe I didn't grab this and all of that with the stress of evacuating already. So you just don't want to be caught unprepared.
Yeah. That's another really great tip.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
I don't know. How can we end this without being a total Debbie Downer? What do you got?
It's only in H-Town time. Come on.
Oh, only in H-Town.
It's Tuesday, so we're going to end with something fun, something quirky, something uplifting, whatever it may be. But today's story is more on the funny and serious side, okay? So
Okay.
I don't know if you saw this or not, but only in H-Town can Mayor Whitmire go viral for talking about the Houston Police Department's need to clean out their evidence and property room. For those of you who missed it, here is the soundbite, which was taking over social media.
The chiefs and the prosecutor, Sean Terry, explained the volume. Just one example, we got 400,000 pounds of marijuana in storage that the rats are the only ones enjoying it. So let's go to work.
Let's go to work. First thing that jumped out to me, the mispronouncing of Sean Tier's name. That was like immediately like, come on.
A little
you are
awkward.
working hand in hand with this guy. I know he's part of Harris County District Attorney, right? But the city and Harris County are working hand in hand. You got to know how to say his last name. First of all, come on.
Yeah, that's a little, that's a gaffe. It's a small gaffe. Sean Tier, note to self, not Sean Thierry, Sean Tier. But rats, marijuana, what's going on in that evidence room?
Yeah, they have so much evidence stored up from years and years of crimes and having that evidence put in these storage rooms. Some of the crimes, by the way, have been solved. The people have served their time and the evidence is still there. So the city is now focused on cleaning up these evidence storage rooms because they're not free. Like, there is storage rooms that are costing the city money. And now they are focused on cleaning this up and maybe getting things out of storage, right? And making sure that rats aren't the only ones enjoying 400,000 pounds of marijuana.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that.
Yeah, that's a crazy statistic. I'd like to see what the city does with those 400,000 pounds. But, one small thing in the police's defense is that I can imagine that even if some of these cases are closed, like, what if a case gets reopened What if there's an appeal? What if it somehow goes back to court? They have to be able to pull all that evidence out again if there's any chance of retrying the
Yeah.
case. But also sounds like a serious problem if there's a rat infestation that they got to take care of.
Yeah. I'm wondering what he's going to do with that 400,000 pounds of weed. Like, is he planning on selling it to states where it's legal? Are we putting them, I don't know, like, are we having a big smoke out with the city? Like, what is happening with this evidence?
I don't know. I do not partake, but if the rats have been enjoying it, I don't know who else wants to share it. Like, I don't want to share anything with rats, okay?
Mayor John Whitmire's big smoke out. That would be... That's going to be our 4th of July celebration.
Oh, man. No,
what
man.
a soundbite. But yeah, hopefully the city does get that under control and the Houston Police Department as well, because that sounds like a problem. Laura, that was a lot of fun. And I'm glad we had a chance to talk about some important topics and also just laugh a little bit, because that was good. And here's to meeting up in person for 2025. I love that one. And make sure you share this episode with friends and tell them as well, like, hey, let's meet up. Hey, look, City Cats Houston's talking about it. Let's go grab a coffee. So we would love to see everyone out and about.
Yes, definitely. +1 to all of that. And I will see you soon.
That was executive producer Laura Isensee. I've linked all the stories we talked about in our show notes. Hey, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button to CityCast Houston so you can get new episodes every weekday morning. And please drop us a rating and review wherever you listen. I truly appreciate it. And by the way, you don't want to miss out on upcoming community events with CityCast Houston, right? So sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, where you can get all of that information, plus the latest news and so much more. I've dropped the link in our show notes. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanlali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
And then puts 3, 2, 1.